Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with another edition of The Voice of Bodybuilding. Once again, I am joined by my good friend and Hall of Famer, Shawn Ray. What's up, Sugar?
Just practicing the poses, baby. Hawaii
Brother,
Classic coming up.
the poses are coming along quite swimmingly, and I'll say that you are filling out that medium shirt very well, my friend.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of cardio, man. I haven't been doing so much weight training, but I've been doing a lot of stretching, very light warm up, and then I put a strong emphasis on my morning cardio, and it's starting to kind of show. I'm leaning out.
Well, listen, you could save that for when your first shipment of Panada equipment comes in. But speaking of which, I am representing today, of course. Big shout out to our main sponsors, Panada, Mutant, ProFit, Icon Meals, Egg Whites, and American Male Wellness, just to name a few. We've got some brand new sponsors coming in, Shawn, because they see the reach that we have. And speaking of reach, my friend, I had just come back from a world tour of Saudi Arabia and Dubai, the Dubai Muscle Show. Let me start with Saudi Arabia. My boys from ProFit, awesome, and all the crew out there. I don't know if you saw the picture of the video, bro, but this is probably the best looking showroom I've ever seen in my life in Saudi Arabia. Unbelievable.
I was fooled. I actually thought it was a full blown gym. It's just a showroom
Right?
that you can eat off the floor. The equipment was phenomenal.
Yeah, this stuff was just amazing. And the funny thing is everybody thought it was like a different kind of equipment. It's Panada equipment, but that's the customization. He decided to go with a flat white. It was like a matte finish white with gold.
Yeah.
This stuff looks like it's it's worth millions. It's crazy.
Yeah, it looked very high end, very expensive, but I know it does the same thing as the rest of the Panada equipment, so that was
Yeah,
kind of cool.
that's funny because one of my buddies actually hit me up and he's like, "Bro, I'd love to try that stuff." I'm like, "You can't try it. It's right here in Savannah." So mine's just black and red, but it's the same stuff, right? But
Yeah, man, good stuff.
well, like I say, big shout out to Awesome and our team at ProFit. They just continue to redefine gyms. We visited with a few, had a few gym openings, and they just rolled out the red carpet, bro. Let me tell you, bodybuilding overseas, and you know this as well because you do a lot of traveling. It's almost like a time warp. Like you're going back 30 years. They are so enthusiastic about the sport of bodybuilding. It's unbelievable.
Well, based on my traveling experience, there's a big reverence for the guys that paved the way. I mean, the legends of bodybuilding are received as well as, if not better, than the guys that are actively competing because they do their history. They know where this stuff started, and a guy like Chris Cormier, yourself, and Dexter, and myself going through there, those guys have done their homework. Whereas here, their homework is about 5 years ago. They know, yeah, buddy, and they
Yeah.
know Jay Cutler, and that's about it. So I love touring the world because they don't have the exposure that we do here in the States, and we're overexposed here. There's lots of other stuff, baseball, yay Dodgers, um,
Yeah.
basketball, football, and all that other stuff. But the overexposure here, you get kind of like used to seeing a high-end legendary bodybuilder
Yeah.
at the top of their game, and they don't get their propers. But when you go over to the Middle East, or you even leave America for that matter, Japan, China, they have a really strong reverence for what we did back when we did it.
It was a who's out there. Our mutant booth was big and strong. You should have been there, Shawn. They could have used
Yeah.
your presence. But Ronnie Coleman was there. Yeah, buddy. You had Phil Heath, of course. We had a whole bunch of Olympia victories in the same place at the same time. The fans got a chance to buy some T-shirts of the champs, get those signed, get their pictures. I saw Flex Wheeler. I saw Bonac. I saw Big Ramy. I saw, like I said, you name it, they were there. They didn't get to see, but what I did get to see was my Yankees getting beat up last night,
Yes.
losing that big
Yeah.
game. Bro, come
Bob,
on, man.
listen, man. If you can find a way to lose, they did, and they're like the Raiders, man. I swear to God, in that game, 4-0 is an ass whooping. It's not even close. The Dodgers, they rose to the occasion. They're going to be good for a long time. You
Yeah.
got to take your hat off to Magic Johnson, man. That guy's got his hands in everything. I think he's got part ownership of that team too.
Well, I'll tell you this. Listen, I love my Yanks. I've been a lifelong supporter, as you know, as I've grew up in New York. Of course, you're a Yankees fan, but I have never seen a debacle like the fifth inning. Bro, they're up 5-0, man. This game's it. It's done. It's okay. They're going to go to another game. Game 6, game 7. You could see this kind of unfolding, and all of a sudden it was all gone. Judge with just a routine fly ball error drops the ball. we've seen hit pitchers, we've seen balks, we've seen you name it. It happened like in one, the Garrett Cole not covering first base. Next thing you know, it's tied up.
Yeah. Well, next thing you know, what's never happened was history. No team has ever came back from a 5-0 deficit to take over and close it out. I mean, I
Yeah.
wish that game was here in LA.
Well, we can focus
Kudos to
on
the
football
Dolphins.
now. And speaking of which, I got to give a shout out because I got it right in front of me. But the brand new Celsius, this is the sparkling orange, bro. Still waiting for my mango tango, by the way, peeps. My peeps at Celsius, but this is excellent, man. I tell you. Speaking of drinks, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. So, Shawn, I'm out at the Dubai Muscle Show, and I spot the C4 booth, and right next to it is the C5 booth.
Fine. They look identical.
And people think like they're the same company. I'm like, no, they're complete opposites, but they were literally next to each other. I told one of my buddies, I go, we should get some tables and a tablecloth and set up the Celsius, or I'm sorry, the C4.5 booth right in between them. But bro, this is McDougal's and McDonald's all over the place.
But there's no bad blood between them. That's what I don't understand. They just coexist. It's crazy.
No, there's a lot of bad blood. They're getting sued in the States because you can maybe get away with that overseas, but that ain't coming here to the States, bro. It's complete infringement and stuff like that. But no, there's some pending lawsuits going on there. But the fact that they put them right next to each other. But if anybody's a fan of coming to America out there, if this isn't McDougal's and McDowell's, I don't know what is.
McDonald's and McDougal's there. McDonald's and McDowell's. Yeah. No, I hear you, man. It's crazy. It's hard to be original these days. It really is.
Well, speaking of stuff, before we move on with the basics, catching up stuff this week because we've both been traveling. You got your show in Hawaii coming up in 2 weeks, my friend?
Absolutely. Right on the heels of the Lee Haney Games coming up in Atlanta, Georgia. I think you're the MC out there on November the 2nd.
I am. I
Olympia.
just talked to Lee last night, so he is rocking and rolling. New venue location, but the Lee Haney Games, I believe, the 10th anniversary, bro. You've done that one a few times.
Yeah, I was gonna surprise him and come out there. I did have a frequent flyer plane ticket, but man, with Hawaii coming up, I'm going
Yeah.
in literally a week early. I'm just gonna save my energy. I don't know if I'm getting old, if I'm getting tired, but I go all out for this Hawaii show, and I make sure that my sponsors are fully represented from Wolfpack Bag, Mutant. I got Labrada and Gaspari both contributing. Legendary Foods is throwing in some stuff. We got some really cool stuff for these athletes. Cardillo Belts, he's our ride or die with Cardillo belts. They've got the Niels Anderson Awards to
Nice.
present, and of course Stacy Kaufman at Protan. It's going down November 16th at the Hawaii Convention Center for the 7th year. We are about to pull it out. We got Pro Bikini and Pro Men's Physique for the Olympia qualification for 25.
Well, you mentioned you had some cool stuff, but it doesn't get any cooler than there was actually snowing in Hawaii the other day. What's up with that?
It's going to be a big surprise to one of our sponsors, Tony Severis, who's coming out of Texas. And without his support on our Pro Men's Physique and Imminent Nutrition for our Pro Bikini, we would not have the Pro division. So I want to give them a special shout out, and hopefully I can throw some snowballs at them when I'm there in Honolulu if it stays long enough. I got 2 weeks to go.
Oh, big shout out to Tony, the GOAT, our good buddy from Linear Roofing, has done quite well for himself and made his way. But big congratulations to Tony for getting back on that Olympia stage just this past year here. So, that said, my friend, that brings us to the current state of bodybuilding. And I got to say, I have to nominate the last 2 weeks that we've been off as the slowest 2 weeks in bodybuilding history because the stuff that I'm seeing overseas, while I was overseas, is just unbelievably like this is what's like. Is this what's happening like in the world of bodybuilding? Some of the headlines, bro. Is Samson's wife really his trainer? There's been some stirrings whether some other people had a hand in his help. Two guys I don't even know who they are. I know the name Mike Van Wyck and some other guy I actually don't know who he is, but one shoved the other one in a gym and got captured on camera. Now the one's suing the other one. Is this the best we got for news and bodybuilding?
Well, I mean, we used to have to wait for the magazines, and we used to have to wait a month or 3 months to get actually real current news. Now we get it every single day from John Doe and Billy Bob and whoever's got a computer or an iPhone. And we have to question the source. That's why I love what we do because we never left. We've been here since we joined in back at me, obviously in 1983. I think you started a couple years earlier than me, but
Yeah.
we never left. And the news that we report on is stuff that we witness. Um, not to knock anybody with an iPhone or their mom's basement computer, but I try not to pay attention to it. The news cycle is horrific with regards to the politics and the things that we're hearing, of the name calling about, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or Puerto
Right.
Rican. Now it's like, with Cbum crossing over to the open, and it's just everybody seems to be divided, man. It's hard to get real substantive news, and it's almost at a point where we have to just talk about it after it's happened, not prior, because everyone has an opinion. But if you don't agree with the opinion of the other person, you're an idiot. You're a jerk. You're a big mouth. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't know how this social media is being twisted, actually, and weaponized, towards people that everyone has a valid, equal opinion. No one's more superior. Although I have a tendency to listen to people that have more years and skin in the game than somebody that's just popping up trying to get likes and views.
Well, as the old saying goes, my friend, everybody has an opinion like buttholes, and they all stink. So the bottom line is this: not all opinions are created equal. You and I pride ourselves on having 45 years plus in this industry, in this game. And for all the people that have asked on my Instagram and all, what do you think about the Mike Van Wyck thing and when this thing? I don't even know who these people are really. I might have met some of them like once or twice, but you and I do not follow this stuff. We really just don't get involved in stuff off the stage, unless it's got some real big relevance to it. But speaking of relevance, two big points before we get into the Cbum stuff, because that is news. Samson Dauda, congratulations, my brother. You are Mr. Olympia, well deserved. I thought the judges got it right. And I find amazing that while everybody should be celebrating this guy as the new Olympia champion, and punching his ticket into bodybuilding history. The big rage is who his trainer was, whether it was his wife. He had a couple of buddies that helped him out. Well, this guy came up with text messages. I say this, Shawn, who cares? Is any of that relevant to anything of whether this guy won the show or not? Can he just be Mr. Olympia?
Well, yeah, I mean, the word trainer is thrown around so loosely. What is the trainer? Is the trainer the one that's handing you your weights like Charles Glass in the gym?
Right,
Or is the trainer like Chris Cormier and Flex Wheeler related to me when I used to go down to Gold's Gym and train with those guys, and we just
right,
battle it out? There was no talking. It was like survival of the fittest. Or is the trainer the guy communicating the way you and I are on a Zoom call? You're posing in front of a camera, and he's telling you how many macros you should be eating. It doesn't really matter. Look, the girl is in his corner. It's his wife. She's been there from, I don't know, way back before when. She's witnessed him go through actual trainers in the past. And look, how much training can you get? The guy's a bodybuilder. He's been doing it for a hot minute now. I mean,
right.
like most guys, they just need maybe a push or a word of encouragement or someone to cook a meal for him or someone to stop him from overeating. I mean, a trainer is someone that kind of holds you accountable. And if that comes in the form of a female or the form of his wife or the form of an OG, so be it. I don't care who his trainer is. He's on that stage by himself. And you know what? He did the business. He did
Exactly.
exactly what everybody was telling him he needed to do. He was a presenter, which means he actually showed up and performed.
Yeah.
Most of the bodybuilders went up there and did their exhibition guest posing. But with Samson, he dots the I, crossed the T's, and he rose to the occasion. He knew he had to take the title away. Derek wasn't going to go away quietly in the night. He knew that Hottie was probably going to be the hardest guy in the show. So all Samson did was just kept his nose to the grindstone, didn't invite a bunch of people in to give him a bunch of misinformation, gave credit where credit was due. And at the end of the day, he was the only one on that stage. But when he got done winning that show, he gave credit where credit was due. So why are we analyzing who gets the credit? He was the one gave the credit to his wife, so more power to him.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to a point in a time where the athlete actually gets the accolades for winning the show. And it's not the trainer, whether it's a Nick Walker thing and his trainer, and all that kind of stuff that came up a few
Nobody
weeks ago,
cares. Yeah.
or a Samson and who actually is really is. Listen, he's actually the real bodybuilder who won the show. So can we just kind of, focus on that, give this guy the accolades and the respect that he deserves and, kind of go that road. But Shawn, you've got some interesting takes on Samson, our current and reigning Olympia champ, on what his future should be.
Yeah.
If you're directing Samson's camp, so let's just say Shawn Ray is put in the position of guru, of trainer, of whatever you want to call it. Um, where do you advise Samson to go? Now, I've heard you say stuff. Now, I know you're outrageous as it is, but you actually indicated that if you were him, you might think about not even defending the title. Is that true?
100%. I would be the Clive Davis of Whitney Houston. Um, I would be the guy out there right now, showing him the way off the stage, like creating a world tour right now. I'm working on the world tour. I know he took off to China right after Olympia,
Okay.
but Samson would do more guest posing appearances in 2025 than he's done competitions in his entire life, which means every time he takes the stage, he's guaranteed a flat rate. Every time he goes to a different country or state or a city, he's getting paid for his time. He's promoting his T-shirts, his belts, his posters. I'm promoting the hell out of Mr. Olympia to the degree that everyone, every country gets a chance to see Mr. Olympia, and he's taking that Sandow Trophy, the golden Sandow Trophy, with him, and it's going to be like the Beatles tour. It's going to be it would be organized in such a way that Samson's only job is to get on stage and perform. So to do that, the only thing he has to do is eat, sleep, and train, which is what you do for the Olympia every single day. And when you start that Olympia process, the one thing you cannot do is travel. The one thing you cannot do is train in different gyms. The one thing you cannot do is meet your fans. You are on an isolated road of focus, blocking out all the extra revenue that you could be making because you're looking great as the show gets closer. Samson, in January, we start on tour. We are going to go to China. We're going to go to Japan. We're going to Australia. We're going to the Middle East. We're going to go all over the world. And you're going to be on display, which means you got to stay in shape. That means cardio year round. That means a lot of fish, low carbohydrate. You're going to lean out and you're going to clean out. And you might see a Samson light for a good, I don't know, 6 months, maybe till June or so, but we're going to hit the road. When we get done hitting the road, now we're going to start doing the business. I know he wants to open a gym. So maybe in the summer of 2025, we're opening up Samson's gym somewhere in England or Nigeria or wherever, because I want him to go back to Nigeria too, to show those guys what Mr. Olympia looks like, show them what the Sandow Trophy looks like. I would be contacting every head of state in the bodybuilding industry to bring my Mr. Olympia to South Africa and back to show them what Mr. Olympia looks like. Not only will we know that he's going to put on a performance, but we also know, Samson, there's no reason to blow up to over 300 pounds. You have nothing else to prove. We just want to see you. And so I create the concert-like effect of him being on the road and on tour, where he's making guaranteed money. He's not putting himself in harm's way. He doesn't have to be overweight trying to bulk up and come down. It's a world fitness tour where he's educating, performing, he's on TV, and he's doing the representation. The same thing they do with Miss Universe, same thing they do with Miss America, but he's taking that on the road, and that's where I would have him go so that he can move on to the next chapter of his life. I don't know that another Mr. Olympia title makes him any more special. It didn't do a whole lot for Big Ramy in terms of making him special. It validated that it was no
Sure.
fluke.
All right.
But
Well,
Derek and
hang
Hottie
on
right
now.
now,
Hang on. I gotta play devil's advocate here, bro.
go
Right
ahead.
now, there's a whole bunch of people watching this going, Shawn, have you
Yeah,
lost your freaking mind? You're
yeah,
talking about a guy who just won the title. You're talking
right.
about a guy who not only just won the title, but also indicated he wants to do the Arnold, which
He
I'll get
should.
your opinion
He
on in a
should.
quick second. And
Yeah.
then you would think, well, of course he's going to defend the title. Even though there's big money that's involved in winning these titles this day, let's face it, 500,000 with the Arnold, 600,000 now with the Olympia, unless that goes up even more next year. Who knows?
Yeah.
But right now, I got to play. I got to play the fan card right now and say, Shawn, what are you thinking that you would have this guy not defend his title? Would you have him go in the Arnold?
What I would do, if he wants to do the Arnold, I wouldn't stop that.
Okay.
But because he doesn't, he's never won. Because he could defend that and he could win it. So, and it's close enough. Okay, so
Right.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to going to the Arnold. There's no reason to go back to where you already were with the Olympia, because now, in less than a calendar year, he's going to have to do two Olympias and the Arnold Classic. He's a 300-pound bodybuilder. And when you push it like that, you are putting yourself in harm's way. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to try to prove anything to anyone. He's won the ultimate prize. Now, that being said, it's very hard to walk away on top. Lee Haney was the only one back when he
Right.
was 31 years young. Lee Haney is still relevant. He's still healthy. He's got kids. He's got grandbabies. He's traveled the world. He is living the life that a lot of bodybuilders wish they could, but they couldn't walk away for whatever reason. Stayed too long. They, lost that last Olympia chasing it. I believe Dexter went out in ninth place. Ronnie Coleman went out in like fourth or fifth place. Should have been even lower than that. Jay Cutler tried to get it one more time. Sometimes it's just, to me, that effort and sacrifice that you put for the Olympia, it can be a difference in the quality of your life thereafter. But it can also be, all right, now I lost it. Now I got to spend this time chasing it back. I think he would be a unicorn, the second unicorn behind Lee Haney.
So
To
is the
call it a
reason
day,
is the reason and rationale that you would advocate to Samson pass the Arnold, win, lose, or draw, to not go in the Olympia is that you don't think he's dominant enough to defend the title, or you just don't see a means to the ends of, like, wouldn't a second title put him in a better position?
I think if they put the prize money, and this is where Samson might have some leverage, I'll come back and compete if you put it at $1 million. Now, you put the ball in the court of the federation. If they want Samson back, they got to figure out how to get that prize money to $1 million. If they don't put it to $1 million, then you make your exit. He's 38 years old. Next year it's just another year, but the things you have to do to get back to that place, we are just glossing over it like it's just another contest. Look, Nick Walker didn't even make it to the damn show, and he's younger, 10 years younger. So things can happen, and there is no guarantee. I just would like to see this guy. He's got his flowers. If he has one more that he wants to do with the Arnold, I understand that, because I was the same way in 1990 and 91. And it wasn't just for the prize money. It was just, the Arnold is a great experience, period. And Samson could win that. He could also shut these guys up in March rather than having to wait until October. Remember, he gives up his entire summer for that. You don't get that summer back. And if he loses for God only knows whatever reason, we're going to be sitting here saying, I tried to tell this guy a year ago that he shouldn't go back. There's nothing there. There's nowhere for him to go unless there's a financial incentive that's greater than what he just got. He will never be able to do what I'm talking about if he goes back to the Olympia and he's second, third, or fourth, because the interest is not going to be as great. The demand is not going to be as great. When Michael Jackson came out with Thriller in 1983, when I started bodybuilding, the demand to see that moonwalk performance around the world took him
Sure.
to another stratosphere. He had to strike when the iron was hot. I think Samson, if he does what I'm telling him, he doesn't have to make an announcement right now, because if he wants to do the Arnold, do it. Take the show on the road. This is where Elvis Presley screwed up. He never left the country, Elvis. He could have been even much bigger.
Colonel
If I'm
Parker.
Samson, yeah, Colonel Parker. If I'm Samson, I'm on tour. I'm talking to all the heads of state in every single country, Kazakhstan, all the way down to Cancun, Mexico. And I'm on the road. I'm taking my girl with me. I'm dragging that Sandow trophy. I'm spreading the gospel that Joe and Ben Weider talked about, bodybuilding and fitness. I'm the reigning Mr. Olympia. I'm wearing that crown, and I'm trying to recruit the future of people to be involved in our sport, but I'm doing it in a way where I'm healthy. I'm trimming down. I'm showing them how to perform. I'm explaining to them the journey that I had to endure. I'm telling them why I'm taking a break, because he's desperately in need of a break if he's looking for improvement anyway. So if he sits out 2025, the way I'm saying, look, the new age for bodybuilders is 40. He's 38 years old. He'd be competing against Hadi Chupin, who's 38 years old, I believe. So I personally say he doesn't have to make an announcement, but a world tour would be the first order of business
Interesting.
before the Arnold Classic or after the Arnold Classic.
So let me ask you this. If Samson is 28 instead of 38, are we having the same conversation, or is that a whole different game changer?
No, we're not having the conversation, because he would have 10 good years ahead of him, like any 28-year-old was.
So
But
the
mind
so
you, by
the
the
age
time
the age factor is a factor from your standpoint.
100%, because again, I remember saying that I thought Derek Lunsford could be a Mr. Olympia before he was a 212,
Sure.
actually coming in. Um, because he had all the things it took. But when you win that title, life changes. It changes your position. Ask Derek how many things came his way after he won the title. Ask Hadi how his life changed after he became Mr. Olympia, even Big Ramy. So Samson got what he'd been dreaming of his entire life. And one more time, I don't think is going to be any easier to walk away. I think it's going to be even harder. But I will tell you, from the north of 50 age bracket, that my wisdom tells me there is a point of diminishing returns. He does not have to try to be the next Ronnie Coleman.
Right.
And to look the way he does and do the things that he did, that is no easy feat, because you are beating up and tearing down your body on a regular basis. And the last thing we need from Samson is an injury. And I would just love for him to sail off into the sunset, represent bodybuilding all over the globe. And I'm not talking about being home on the weekends. I'm talking about going out there
I got you.
and doing the next level promotion is waiting for Samson, because I call them a gorilla because we don't see them very often. We don't see somebody like him. When have you seen a gorilla, right? This guy in person is a sight to behold. The last time I saw that was standing next to Ronnie Coleman, right? I mean, it's one thing to see Ronnie Coleman today, but when you stand next to Ronnie,
Yeah.
it's unworldly watching him move around. And when you go to the zoo and you look at all those animals and then you get to a gorilla, it's something that you're not going to forget. I said that about Samson in a loving way, because there's no other gorillas out there in that jungle. There's only one Samson. He is the king of the jungle. He's not a lion. He's a gorilla. It's hard to see that in person and not forget about it. So I'd love to have him take that to Mexico, Japan, South Africa, and all those places that he's never been, because this is the time to strike when the iron's hot.
Well, years ago, we did have a guy in a gorilla suit. His name was Bob Paris. You guys can look that one up if you want a good book to read. But listen, we got gorillas, we got ox and bear and moose. These guys are animals. I mean, let's
They're all
face it,
animals,
John.
bro.
All right.
Yeah,
So
I like to.
let me
Go
ask
ahead.
you this. I'm going to go with what Samson has said. Again, now he could have been just talking because he was high on life. He just won the Olympia, probably got a cheeseburger, down the hatch that night. And he says, I'm going to the Arnold. I don't care. I'm a bodybuilder. That's what I do. Let's just go with that for a minute, and says he does.
Fair enough.
If you're Derek, do you also go in the Arnold? Thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute. I passed on that last year. And yes, he won the Olympia and all that stuff, which was great. But he can catch Samson sleeping. Again, listen, Samson, again, everybody knows I'm a big Samson fan. I've been advocating him since I met him as a junior when he was in the UK coming up. But you could see that this guy had talent written all over him. And he has fulfilled that as being Mr. Olympia now. But that said, his conditioning is still suspect. He got enough conditioning to win that title this year, we know. But him and Hadi and Derek, to me, are interchangeable. If you're Derek, do you target and go in the Arnold Classic?
You have to. You have to, from just a financial standpoint. If you're going to do all of that work, you might as well get compensated. And second, third, and fourth is no slouch when it comes to prize money, what Arnold's doing over there in Columbus, Ohio. He makes it worth your time financially. It's not the Mr. Olympia, but it's a good payday.
Sure.
And there's nothing to hang your head down if you're in the top 3 of the Arnold Classic and you don't win it because you lost to Mr. Olympia. I mean, I don't see how Samson can lose that show, but I also don't see how Derek can sit at home and go do any other show and get compensated for the amount of time he has to sacrifice, including the holidays. Mind you, these athletes are going to be dieting through the holidays. They're starting their year off in the trenches. They just got out of the trenches. They got to give up a lot. And so for Arnold to have that big windfall of a payday, it makes it worth it whether you win or you lose. And you can't win unless you show up. So Derek has a fighter's chance of winning. However, as long as Samson's in the show, if I'm a betting man, Samson gets my bet. But Derek goes home with a fat paycheck that he would otherwise not get if he goes into any other contest on the calendar year separate from the Olympia.
Well, I got to put myself in Derek's mindset. If I'm Derek Lunsford, I'm thinking Samson didn't win the title as much as I lost it. I came in off. I wasn't 100%. Legs were down a little bit. Didn't quite have that polish and that just that explosive physique that he did the year before when he won the title. So I got to be thinking, all right, Samson's already played his card. He's going in the Arnold. I'm going to catch this guy sleeping. He's beaten me once. I've beaten him 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is. So I'm wondering if Derek's thinking to himself, like, I can not only exact some revenge here, but put myself in the driver's seat. If I can beat the incumbent champ at the Arnold, and I'll be going in the Olympia on a high, because listen, you may advocate that Samson ain't going in the Olympia. I can almost, both of us, I'm sure, would guarantee he's going to absolutely go in the Olympia to defend his title. So, not a bad strategy if you're Derek, like you say, win, lose, or draw, but that would be a real feather in the cap, bro, if you catch Samson sleeping at the Arnold.
Well, my whole thing is I don't know that Derek has enough time to fix what was wrong with him. He lost it at the Olympia. His legs were down in size. I don't know that he has enough time to gain that size that he was missing and fix the mistakes that he had in Las Vegas by March. So that being said, I still say go for the Arnold Classic because the prize money is worth it. And losing to Mr. Olympia is not embarrassing. And if he never beats Samson again, it's not a slap in the face. I mean, he's Mr. Olympia. When
Right.
Ronnie Coleman overtook all the boys back in '98 and won the Olympia, Kevin Levrone, Dexter Jackson, myself, I mean, we still lived to fight another day. We still were able to create a career for ourselves. Derek has nothing to lose. As a matter of fact, it goes to his advantage to show people that, look, I'm not afraid to go up against this guy again. He's got nothing to lose. And if he loses, it's not like he lost to some guy that's going to come up out of the woodworks. He's losing to Mr. Olympia. I don't particularly think that Derek's going to beat Samson in March. It's not enough time to fix the problems that I saw with Derek's physique. That being said, if Samson chooses to do the Arnold and goes back to the Mr. Olympia in 2025, I think he leaves enough room to screw up by not giving his body a break. And we saw that happen with Nick Walker. This is the mind it's the strongest muscle we have, but it's also the weakest muscle we have, and it is a lot to chew. That's why Ronnie Coleman, even though he won the Arnold and the Olympia, he wasn't doing it every single year, and he could have. He
Right.
could have beat everybody every single year. There's a reason why he didn't continue trying to go down that road. A young Jay Cutler did it 3 times in a row and was successful, but he was younger. Samson tries to do this and get greedy. He's going to lose that title.
Speaking of Nick Walker, he kind of took a backseat to the other news that came out this week. But the week before that, he was all over the news is that he got rid of his trainer, as everybody else seemed to get rid of the same trainer. So Matt looks like he's taking his ball and he's going home. But it does leave in the question, has Nick Walker painted himself into a corner of which it's going to be very difficult to win? And when I say win, I'm going to put that in quotations because the win at this point has to merely be getting on stage, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing to do is not winning the competition. It's just going back to who you once were. He lost confidence in himself. It happens. He's not the first one to pull out of a show because he didn't look good. He's the first one to admit it. So let's give him a little bit of credit
Sure.
because he literally said, I wasn't looking right. My body wasn't responding. He at least acknowledged, we know some notorious people that have gotten out of shows with some very nefarious excuses
Yeah.
that were complete BS. So I give Nick credit for acknowledging that it was a mental breakdown, and we don't want you on the stage if you're mentally not ready because other things can go wrong by trying to force a round peg in a square hole. We didn't want to see Nick on stage fat and out of shape so we can talk shit about him. I'm glad he pulled out. The show was deep enough; it didn't need him. But I predicted back in March that something may happen where he doesn't wind up on the Olympia stage, and it did. It wasn't an injury, but your mind can let you down. It could also take you places you've never been before. So he's young enough. He can bounce back. There's plenty of shows on the calendar that he could actually win. The Arnold Classic is not one of them. Maybe
Agreed.
going back to New York. Going back to New York might be a nice fresh start, but also Pittsburgh. It still puts him in the very precarious place of having that time frame from May till October to have to repeat that. But he's young
Right.
enough where I think he can. He's done it in the past. He got third in the Olympia. He's been there before. When you screw up mentally like that, you do have time on your side to fix it. It's a mental mistake. Some people are speculating whether it was physical or not. We'll never know the truth. But he's had plenty of time now to get fat and out of shape, regret, go through the remorse, go through the mourning process of what could have been. And I predict he'll go back. There's plenty of shows that he can win. He just has to be very strategic And then when it comes to the Olympia, I've said it many, many times,
Yeah.
the Olympia, the stage itself, the gravity of the moment, not everybody can rise to it. You can win a contest, you get to the Olympia and you fall on your face. We talked about that with John De La Rosa.
Yep.
Didn't happen for him the way he visioned it. But the same thing, King Kamali talked a big, big talk when he qualified for the Olympia, got to the Olympia, and he didn't bust a grape. There are guys like that. Nick is not one of them. Nick can climb his way back up. He just has to be very strategic.
I'll be very curious to see what he ends up picking because I could see two paths. Path number one, hit an early show, like, and I'll say relatively early, like New York or Pittsburgh. Try to get that early victory, and then you got some time to get yourself together and take a run for the Olympia. Or, depending on what's going on with his body and his physique and responding, hit a later show en route to the Olympia so that all your eggs are in the later half. I mean, listen, he's been third in the Olympia. We don't want to take anything away from him. He's very talented. He's got a lot of muscle, and he's very hard to beat. But I'm not so sure which one is his right path. Only he would know that, and then whoever he's going to be training with next. But the big news, Shawn, this week. The big news.
Wait. Before you get there, May might be a little too soon. I think maybe go back to Tampa in August. And the reason I say Tampa in August, because he has May, June, July
Right.
to do his prep, right? May, June, and July to do his prep. If he goes in May, he's on that thing in February, March, and April. I go to Tampa, and there's also, I think Texas there's two of them close together.
Yeah.
And that forces him to then stay tight, close to his competition weight throughout the balance of the summer. If he goes there in May, he's going to have a tough summer because he's going to balloon up a little bit and then try to come back down again. And I think that could create some problems with his preparation. I say you try to go for Tampa or Texas, something in the month of August,
Yeah.
early September.
Yeah, I would probably advocate the same. Let's bypass the early shows and hit the later ones, and make one run where you ain't got to go in and out of conditioning. But the big news, obviously, this week was Cbum. Now, for those wondering, on the Olympia stage, yes, he did retire, but he kind of retired from Classic, and he has been consistent. I got to give him this. Chris, every time I've interviewed him, has been very clear that when he retires from Classic, that he always thought maybe I would do an open show. He's been clear with that from day one, and he's actually going to pull the trigger. I have my own reasonings as to why I think he's going to do that, but not a bad move. But I tell you what, it sent shockwaves through the bodybuilding community that Chris Bumstead will be throwing his hat in an open show, and that's coming up in just a few weeks in Prague.
Well, I mean, it's not a surprise. Listen, the guy still has a lot of gas in the tank. He made it through that prep. He did it the right way. Let his fans know so there's no expectations about next year's Mr. Olympia regarding Classic. He does have enough time to fill out, and he also has enough time to go over there and win. Now, he's going to have to go through Martin Fitzwater, who we know is a formidable up-and-comer. He's never traveled out of the country to compete, but neither has Chris. So that playing field is even. But Chris, I think, has a little bit more motivation that might open that floodgate of what if. Whereas Fitzwater's just trying to qualify early for next year's Mr. Olympia. It's going to make the judges focus and really have to do their job. I said this on record, that Bumstead is the best physique in the industry, including all categories, except for women's wellness. That being said,
thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, that's my that's my favorite. But that being said, I say that for a number of reasons because I use the word reimagine, and sometimes you have to reimagine what it is we're promoting. You have to reimagine what it is we want this sport to look like, and you just change the posing trunks, which is what he's basically doing. The poses are all the same. But when you watch him, I mean, it's very nostalgic being a bodybuilding historian like we are to see some of the poses that he hits. And we go back to a place where there was beauty and grace and nostalgia about how a tiny little waist looks, how a small vacuum, how, just a tweak with the arm behind your head. He's going to bring all that classic stuff to the open stage that we do not see almost on any pro Olympia bodybuilding stage. And I remember saying this about Samson. I was on the Dennis James podcast during Olympia weekend. I said, I think the judges might be swayed over because they're human, and they're going to get sucked into how Samson makes us feel, not just on how he presents himself and how he looks. There's a feeling when you watch a bodybuilding show that, for me, I can say sometimes become a very religious awakening, because you remember what it was like when you were younger and what drew us to the sport. And when I would watch Bob Paris and Samir Banu and Labrada and the magical Egyptian Muhammad Makaway get up there and do, I forgot who they're up against because I got sucked into what they were showing me individually. Bumstead is going to be that guy. He's going to go up there and he's going to take us to a place of feeling that's bodybuilding. Remember, we watched Arnold Schwarzenegger watching Ed Corney
Sure.
in Pumping Iron. Was it Pumping Iron or what was it?
Yep. Pumping iron. Yep.
He was watching Ed Corney, who was never going to be a threat to him ever.
That's right.
But Arnold, as great as Arnold was, he says, "Now that's posing, right?" Because you have he was sucked into what he was presenting. Bumstead makes me feel a certain way when I watch him on stage because he's a throwback. Even in his speech, right? You're listening. You're not talking. You're listening to him because he's a little more eloquent than some of the other bodybuilders, but he gets what the art of presentation is. He gets the look. And so for that reason, I give him extra points, and it takes my mind off of the other guys he's standing next to. But it'll be interesting comparison because I think Fitzwater can win several shows out there, and he earned the right to be in the top four. We both predicted that he would probably beat Nick Walker if you threw Nick
Yep.
Walker in that Olympia lineup. So he got his comeuppance. I don't think he's going to beat a fuller, a more determined Chris Bumstead. This is Chris Bumstead's show to lose. That's my prediction.
Well, this is going to be real interesting because you've got a few facts. The Fitzwater factor is huge, and I'll tell you why. Fitzwater was fourth at the Olympia and arguably could have been third at the Olympia when you talk to a lot of the experts out there and even some of the judges off the record.
I agree.
Not that Derek was that bad, but Fitzwater was that good. Now, I did see a picture with Fitzwater, and I got to be honest, bro, I don't normally give these type of accolades, but I saw a picture, and if I could come up with this thing, I'll post it up here. I'll have to look for it. It was a back double bicep picture of Fitzwater that, and I say this with God as my witness, I actually thought was a picture of Phil Heath when I saw it. It was a back double by taken at a slight angle left to right. I tell you what, this kid is good, and he's very good. Okay, again, top four in his first O. If Bumstead can beat Fitzwater, let's just say arguably they're in both, their best shape there. That automatically puts him in a top three position of the O, you would think, or at least in contention. We haven't seen him next to the real big boys, but two scenarios, Shawn. Bumstead goes in, he does okay, but he doesn't win. Let's just say he takes third. Okay, let's say Fitzwater wins, and I don't know, you got Clarita in there. There's a few others. I don't think Clarita could beat Bumstead, but whatever. Okay, it's a nice finish. He did it. He fulfilled his obligation of wanting to do an open show, but I don't know if that really elicits anything more. Scenario two. Let's just say he goes in and he wins convincingly, and he beats Martin. Okay, and he puts himself in that position. Is there a future for him at that point, or does he still call it a day? Like, are we seeing Bumstead on the open stage this year at the 2025 Olympia?
Well, it's been about 3 years that I've been screaming
I
from the
know.
top of the mountain for Bumstead to go in the Open Olympia.
I know you have.
Because he can train unabashed with not worrying about the scale and more focused on the mirror, which served Arnold Schwarzenegger really well. And let's give you some perspective. I don't know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was over 230 pounds in any of the Mr. Olympias that he competed
That's
in.
about what he was, according to him. So,
Well, those pictures are still iconic, and I would throw him in the Mr. Olympia lineup with all of these cats, and he'd be Mr. Olympia. In my opinion, Arnold is still Arnold, right?
yeah.
This kid, 5, 10 more pounds, it would be a magic act. I mean, we know he needs a little bit more quads, but I think his legs are probably better than Arnold's when you look at him from top to bottom.
Yeah.
He's a throwback. And when I say reimagine what Mr. Olympia looks like, he could be that guy. And what other challenge in his universe, besides being a father, is ever going to be as big as this one if he wins in Prague and he goes to throw his hat in the Olympia arena? The build-up to that would be like the Ali Frazier fight to
Right.
me, because you're having basically to create a scenario of good versus evil between these guys, right? You're going to have to make Samson this big evil guy, and here you got the guy that sleeps on silk sheets, right? So we're going to have to come up with some
Right.
type of narrative. You know, we don't play the race card here in bodybuilding, but we're going to have to play good versus evil, size versus shape, some type of thing. And the judges are going to have to determine which way they want this sport to go.
And
Why
listen, let's
not?
let's face it, Shawn. You were advocating him to go the last 2 years, or if not three, because there was an extra zero, $400,000, and all that. Now it's $600,000.
If Chris wins in Prague and he puts it out in the universe that, yeah, I'm qualified for the Olympia, but I'm not going to go unless it's $1,000,000. And Samson says, I'm not going unless it's $1,000,000. Somebody's going to come up with that $400,000 difference. And I'd love to be one of the guys that helps try to raise that prize money so I can see that matchup. That would be something that gets everybody mobilized in our industry so that we can all be a part of history too. This
Sure.
isn't just for Bumstead. This is for us. This is for the fans. And
Yeah.
and I think we would all try to mobilize to make that happen so that we can see it. I would talk Samson out of retirement so he can go up against this guy and see that matchup. They're doing it in boxing. They're doing it in the WWE. They're doing it in the UFC. There's unity in our industry, regardless of whether or not there's certain individuals we don't like, that we can put our differences aside to come together, to unite for the benefit of the sport and for the fans. And Jake Wood has been very instrumental in bringing people together to rally behind the Olympia. This would be one where we would all have to go use our resources so that we can go, okay, it's only $400,000. What do we got to do, guys? How many other sponsors do we got to get so that we could plop that $1,000,000 prize money down there, give that champion an opportunity to be looked at the same way, well, not the same way as a basketball or a football player, because
I got you. Yeah.
the guy that's not even on the field that makes more than that. But how nice would that be to give these guys the incentive to give us our best and show us what's possible? I talked about reimagining. This would be something that if Bumstead wins in Prague and Samson says, I'm going to defend my title, that we should all come together and go, this is $1,000,000 payday for the champion. Let's figure out how to make it happen.
Well, I'll tell you what you're going to have to figure out, and what you're going to have to reimagine is, to quote the great Roy Schneider from Jaws, you're going to need a bigger boat.
We're going to need a bigger
I think
boat.
at that point, you got to be looking at 10,000 plus, like in the glory days of bodybuilding when Ronnie was on top, and him and Jay were going at it, because I honestly and firmly believe you could sell out a 10 or 12,000 seat arena anywhere on this earth, with the Bumstead in the ring. It's going against Sam. It's a colliding. It's worlds colliding, right? It answers that age old question: what if the classic guy, in this case Bumstead, were to go in the opens, right?
Bob,
And
I'm a bodybuilding promoter, right? So I'm looking at what some of these other sports are doing. This Mike Tyson,
sure,
what's the guy he's fighting? Logan or whatever,
Jake
whoever the
Paul,
hell. Yeah, I mean, it's not a fight, okay? It's a show. It's
right?
business for both of them. For the year for that industry. It is the fans want to see yesterday and tomorrow. They want to see the past meet the present, I should say. They want
Yeah,
to see the young versus the old. We are nostalgically drawn towards the Mike Tyson of old. That's the only reason you would go to watch that. Not because you think Mike's better. His skills are diminished. He's probably borderline got brain damage. But you know what? When he puts on those black shorts and those shoes with no socks, and comes
that's
out
it.
with the towel around his neck, it's how he's gonna make us feel. We don't give really that much about what he's gonna do in the ring, but we're gonna be taken to a place like holy crap, and it's all gonna build up in 100,000 seat arena, right, in Texas.
Oh yeah,
We can do this. Why can't we do the same thing? Why can't we create a storyline, a narrative, something that we don't have never done is possible. We can make our own future by creating what's possible if we consider the fans. You're right. A 10,000 seat arena is easy in this scenario. We've been there before. We've had
yeah.
bigger arenas. The Mandalay Bay is at 15,000. The arena over there at the Orleans is 12,000, 10,000. We can go bigger if we give the fans a reason to want to come and see this.
Well, I'm sure Jake, Dan, and the crew are listening, bro, and they're all about ticket sales. So if anybody can put this stuff together, it's certainly the Olympia crew. And I, for one, as a bodybuilding fan, which is what we are first and foremost, this would be great. I'll be very curious to see, and this is a great matchup, Cbum versus Fitzwater. Can he stand next to him? Can he hold his own against him? What does Chris look like with another 10 pounds on him, which would still keep him in shape, but obviously he'd be much rounder and a little bit fuller than we just saw at his last outing on the Olympia stage. So all these questions will be answered on that Prague Pro stage in just a few weeks. So it's coming up quick, my friend. And that will do it, my friend, for another edition of The Voice of Bodybuilding. We will be back and bigger than ever, of course, with another edition very soon. So appreciate everybody watching and tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe, everybody. We appreciate everybody. And don't forget the comments. We love your guys' comments. The good, the bad, the ugly. Yes, that's me and Shawn on there, giving you some lip back because we don't take no shit from nobody. We're old school.